Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you know who I am. I'm Kevin Terry, our town of Edson. We're very pleased to host another town hall today in conjunction with the Edson RCMP and Citizens on Patrol. Policing obviously is a very big priority for the town of Edson, and moving forward in 2023, we're continuing with our complement of officers here in the town of Edson and continuing to work very closely with Staff Sergeant Delisle to set priorities and engagement sessions like this help inform the decisions that the RCMP make in our community to target resources where they are needed. If you recall, I don't know how many of you were at the last town hall. There were some suggestions that were made, and Christian was good enough to follow up on them. And you may have seen some additional enforcement in some areas that were brought up, as well as resources in some of the neighborhoods that were mentioned in the last town hall. So we do have a special presentation here this evening as well, which I'll let Christian speak to. And we look forward to your questions either here at the Correction Center or online. We'll be taking questions later on after the presentation. So welcome, Staff Sergeant Christian Delisle, the Staff Sergeant, the RCMP, and our Chief of Police. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. My name is Christian Delisle. I'm your detachment commander here for 2.5 years now. Time flies. And yes, I've done a few of the town halls, and one of my favorite things to do, present some stats, get some of the feedback with the population, see if we're doing good, where we can improve, see what we're doing, how we're doing. Tonight we're lucky. We have Jennifer Key from Alberta RCMP. She's basically the person in charge of our crime reduction or crime prevention unit in the quarters. And tonight she will be coming and giving us a presentation on SEPDED, so crime prevention through environmental design. We're very lucky to have her tonight here. She is high demand. She was just telling me that she was doing a presentation for Manitoba. Was it yesterday? Yes, so we're very lucky to have her here. She's in Bonneville. She travels across the province, so we have her tonight, and she will share some of her wisdom with us. And shortly after, we'll be talking about our local stats, and then we'll open the floor for questions and whatnot. Before we start, like always, I would like to give 2 or 3 minutes, even 5 if she wants, to Julie, who is our president for the COP group here in Edson, a very dynamic and active group that is working hand in hand with us, trying to prevent crime for crime in Edson. And like always, I'm going to give her 2 or 3 minutes to say hi, quickly see what she's doing and what they're up to, and for free.
Thank you, sir. Hi, I am Julie Downer, as Staff Sergeant Delisle mentioned. We are basically the eyes and ears in support of the RCMP. They can't be everywhere, so we're out there looking a little less noticeable, perhaps, and we end up catching some more stuff because we are not active. Winter is upon us. Some of the areas of concern that we have are that people leave their vehicles running. And if you can lock up your vehicle and leave it running, that's one thing. But if you leave it running and just run into 7-Eleven or Harry's or whatever to pick up your order, there's a really good chance somebody's standing there watching for you. And also remove all the valuables in your vehicle. Don't leave your wallets, don't leave your purse. It's accidental sometimes, but some people actually store their wallet in there. It's a really, really bad idea. Yeah. Woo. Okay. Just noted me. We'll talk about that one. And the other thing is, don't let anything be in the line of vision of anything. These people that are out there breaking into vehicles are opportunistic. They see it, they'll just break the window and get in it. Okay, so stay safe. If you see something, call the RCMP before you put it on Facebook. Though we do check Facebook while we're on patrol. Yes, if they don't know that there's something going on, they don't have to stack to it. That's right.
Thank you very much, Julie. We'll move on with our main presentation tonight from Jennifer Key. Floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you very much for having me this evening. The background of myself, I've been in law enforcement environment now for over 20 years. I started with the Calgary Police Service as a 911 call taker dispatcher. I was a critical incident dispatcher. That means that I was a dispatcher that had special intel on the special officer were running. I was also an instructor and an active supervisor. We decided to move out to St. Albert where I joined as a dispatcher to fire and EMS, and then I moved on to the sheriff's on the legislative grounds where I worked in the control room as a secret warrant coordinator while I was waiting to get hired on the RCMP. I joined the RCMP as a number one call taker and dispatcher, and very shortly thereafter, I moved to being an instructor and taught the new call takers and the new dispatchers. And then I moved into this role 5 years ago. So what I bring to the table is knowledge of city policing as well as rural policing, and they are in 10 days. I found out RCMP are very nice. City police are approaching. That was my outside words. So when it comes to crime prevention and environmental design, I do have basic and enhanced subject training. I received my training through the Edson Police Service, and I am a civilian member. So the good news with SEPTED, and I always try to encourage people to go and become a SEPTED practitioner. It's open to anybody. You don't have to be law enforcement, and it's a fantastic way to work with the community and get developed more involved with the community and with the police. So does anybody have any existing knowledge of what SEPTED is or consists of? As you, oh, you're gonna learn the hard way. When you nod your head yes, that means that you pick on. So you nodded yes, what do we know about SEPTED?
Using design or roads, streets, houses, the built environment to make a place safe instead of dangerous.
Okay, so I can pretty much stick about 4 slides with that answer, so thank you very much. That was pretty bang on. So SEPTED is using existing structures, and it's to make amendments to those structures or additions to the structures to make it less appealing, less desirable for criminal activity. It can be applied to a whole community. It can be applied to a section of the community. It can be applied to homes, businesses. My previous experience has been doing SEPTED assessments for a full downtown port in a rural Alberta community, which led to the police, the public, and the town all coming together to improve the quality of life for that community. We had businesses that were cleaning up their yards, fortifying their properties, as well as on the town side of it, we got more lighting in back alleys. They started trimming down the trees and the branches, so there was less hiding places. It was more open and just genuinely a safer community. And lo and behold, the crime rates dropped. So it was a team effort there and everybody pulled together, but that is the benefit of SEPTED. I apologize, I don't have the clickers, so. We've already hit the nail on the head with what SEPTED is, so I won't go over that. But the strategies of SEPTED rely upon the ability to influence offender decisions that precede criminal acts. So again, it's trying to make your property less desirable for criminal activity. And how many are familiar with the crime triangle? So SEPTED operates using a crime triangle. In order for a crime to occur, you need a victim or a target, you need the criminal and the desire to commit the crime, and you need the opportunity. So when we take the SEPTED principles, we take the recommendations, we apply them to a property. The basic premise is, as long as one of those angles is gone, a crime is more than likely not going to occur. And as we all know by now, offenders are usually going to properties that have what?
Something to steal.
Something to steal. And do they want a property where they know they have to get through a sturdy padlock, additional locks to get to that property? Or do they want to go to the property where we forgot to put our bicycle away or we forgot to put the lawnmower away. They're operating on the risk versus gain matrix. So it sums it up perfectly where we say, if there's a high risk of getting caught and a low rewarded value, then the offense is likely not to occur. So what we want to do with SEPTED is heighten that risk for the offender and really lower the value. So if all they see on your property is a quad that's secured, it's chained. Yes, they can go on that property, they can try and get that quad, but not only is that quad chained, it's also disabled. So what we're causing right there are layers of defense. So they have to get through that chain, and then they have to figure out how to enable a disabled ATV. So that's kind of the premise of SEPTED. Let's make this difficult for them. And the goal of SEPTED is to reduce opportunities of crime and disorder that can occur in neighborhoods. And the one thing we need to function on is, of course, we get a SEPTED assessment done, and you apply all the recommendations. You do everything that the assessment says to do. That, of course, does not 100% guarantee that it's going to stop future criminal activity. What it can do is lessen the probability that your place may be targeted. And the goals of SEPTED are accomplished through involvement of SEPTED practitioners in the planning, development, and design of community projects and new developments. So SEPTED isn't always applicable just to existing structures. I have sat on the Beaumont Development Committee, and they're applying SEPTED to new developments they're putting in. They had one subdivision, unfortunately, that we did construct, and it was without discussing it with all parties involved. And lo and behold, what did the police, fire, and EMS find? These new houses were built where the detached garages were put in front of the house. And what's behind the garage? The house number. So right there, police are going to have trouble responding in a timely manner when they have to actually get out and go behind a garage to see if they're in the right house. Bigger problem, fire trucks couldn't navigate through the neighborhood. Lo and behold, what do? They developed a SEPTED committee and an urban development committee. They have new subdivisions going in, and they now have SEPTED applications and guidelines that need to be followed for any future developments. And we also want to talk about environment cues. These are focusing on potential offenders. So environment cues assist criminals to help them locate targets in time and space, and they can be associated with safe or good targets or unsafe or bad targets. This is reversed from our world. So when we say good targets, what do you think the criminal is looking for? Easy access, that's excellent. And what would be a bad target for them? Exactly. And criminals, of course, learn to recognize potentially good and bad crime sites and situations. How do they do that? A lot of the times they're going to be casing properties. And that is why, and I cannot stress this enough or emphasize this enough, please report all suspicious activity, vehicles, and people to police in a timely manner. Because even if they haven't done anything wrong yet, if the Edson detachment gets a call about a suspicious vehicle that seems to be circling the neighborhood for no reason, they'll send a member out. And that member is going to have a conversation. Not much the member can do, they're not doing anything wrong. But what does that conversation do to the person in the vehicle? Understand me watching. And we know what they're up to, and we're stopping it without doing an arrest because they can, or we're stopping it. So for all properties, we have 3 distinct types of users. We have normal users. In a residence, this is going to be family members, it's going to be friends, it's going to be neighbors, people that you want to welcome into your house. For a business, it's going to be the clients that your business is desired to have in that business. abnormal users. What we don't want in our house is an intoxicated person who got the address wrong and came in through your front door, doesn't belong there. In a business, we do not want somebody coming in that's wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, carrying a backpack and acting sketchy. That's not what we want in the business. And observers, this pretty much applies to parks, green spaces. It's people that are there to just observe the natural human activity that's happening there. So for social management, that's where the real power and effectiveness of the subtech program lies. And basically what this is saying that if all parties are feeling safe, they're feeling welcome, it's inviting, and they're not fearful of a crime happening to them or their property. So this is really how subtech affects the quality of life. And the emphasis of subtech is on the physical environment, behavior of people, productive use of space, and crime loss prevention. And when we talk about target thing, there are some times where if I say target, people go, what is she talking about? It's talking about a structure and the different layers of defense that we're using through subtech and fortifying that property. So the benefits of subtech, they include a reduction in crime, the reduction in the potential for crime, decreased fear of crime, and revitalization of neighborhoods. And it also empowers property owners to tackle crime. A lot of the times in the old days, it was up to police to arrest. They would get a call, they would arrest. If they didn't get a call, what more could they do? This is enabling property owners to look at the property through the basics of subtech. You don't even need to be trained in it. And we'll show what I mean by that with maintenance. When you look around your property, it's enabling you to do things to your property to make it more secure. So the 4 principles that we're going to go through are natural surveillance, access control, territorial reinforcement, and maintenance. This is the meat and the potatoes of subtech, and a lot of this presentation is going to be pictures, so I can actually visually show you what we mean by them. So we're starting with natural surveillance. Seeing and being seen are important aspects of crime prevention. When do criminals usually commit a break-in and enter or theft? When they can't be seen. So with the business, if you have a business, which we're going to cover later, that doesn't have its sight lines, that doesn't provide for a clerk or a cashier to be able to see the whole store, or from your house if you have ambush points and you can't see the property or the end of the property and people can't see towards your property. So the key elements of natural surveillance are lighting, sight lines, and landscaping. For lighting, this is paramount, and this is one of the most important elements of subtech. We want light that clearly illuminates activity areas, eliminates shadows and glare, and minimizes color distortion. And for the sight lines, we want a clear view, both outside and coming in. And with landscaping, we go by the 2-foot and 6-foot rule, and I'll cover that in just a bit. So for natural surveillance and lighting, I do apologize, it's kind of hard to read it, but we do recommend LED lighting. LED lighting is most effective in identifying human features. It produces better imagery on surveillance cameras. One of the biggest complications that law enforcement runs into, the members will go there and say, do you have video surveillance? Yes, we have video surveillance. Yes, we got them. We review the video surveillance. There is nothing they can do with it. Even if they know that is more than likely this person that committed the act, if they cannot make that out in a photo, if they cannot produce it for report, it is irrelevant. So if we have video surveillance, we want to make sure it's effective. An LED lighting should be installed both inside and outside of your property. And motion sensor lights. What is the purpose of motion sensor lights? Is it to notify you if there's somebody around your property?
Like you were yours.
Or is it more to tell the potential criminal that's there that that light just went on and somebody could be coming in? There's a threat to the criminal. So for minimum lighting guidelines, during the nighttime, it's very important that we're able to identify a person's face from 10 to 20 meters. Having a light that's just glaring out to the distance and producing that glare, all we're going to be able to see is that there's a person there. It is very important when, if you are ever unfortunate to confront somebody that's on your property, you want to be able to see them and you want them to be able to see you. And lighting has to be consistent. No shadows or glares. Inset doorways and alcoves should always be lit. So in businesses and apartment complexes, this is more where this is applicable. We don't want the entryway to businesses or to apartment complexes to be in the dark. And light fixtures should be protected from vandalism. Has anybody seen vandal-proof cages that you can put over the lights? Some are your basic steel wired. They kind of look kind of hardcore, like a little jail. You put your light and your video surveillance in. You can buy others that are more discreet, they're clear. It's just harder because we do have situations where the vendors are coming in smashing lights and smashing security cameras. They do that, so we want to try and protect that. So here is what we don't want. What can we see there with the lighting? What are the officers seeing? Exactly. It's not doing anybody any good. Can anybody actually make out what that's supposed to be? Because I can tell you, it's like, I know. That's a doorway to a house. They tried with that little light stand. You just have that little bulb of light there. But I know I wouldn't feel comfortable in the dark approaching this. And I look at subtype two-sided. I look at how the officers need to have an environment when they're approaching a call and the safety of the public. So if you're calling in from inside your house saying, I think I hear somebody outside, somebody is trying to pry at my window, the officer's going to show up. They can't see anything. They're seeing what we're seeing right now. And again, that picture is actually, there is a parked vehicle right there. Do you see that? So what can happen to that vehicle right now? Anything. And is anybody going to see it? No. This is a pathway with trees. It's very lovely. But would you feel safe walking there? We have the lighting, it's overhead, and it's completely shadowed and covered by the trees. That is not a safe environment. And this picture is a storefront. We have a spotlight on the wall. That's the only thing that's being lit up, this portion of the wall. What would we want lit up for a storefront? Pretty much the whole front. That's what we want lit up. So this is just a street in a residential setting. And we have one light that again is pretty non-effective. We have a whole bunch of our cars here in the dark. Even though we do have lighting, it's not doing any good. But lighting on that tree, which is a beautiful tree, but it's not what we need to be seeing. This is much better. So if you put yourself first in the criminal's shoes, would you rather be on this street or the last street? Probably the last street with that one light that isn't doing anything. If you're a police officer patrolling, Are you gonna be able to see activity better on this street or the last street? Definitely this street. It's safer, it's more inviting, it gives you a better sense of community, and that's what we're aiming for. And there are communities and situations where the lighting is bad, like the one where I have to get the town involved and say, this is not safe, you need more lighting. And this is the difference. This is low sodium grade lighting. So you can see the orange and the distortion and the graininess. This is LED lighting. So there is a significant difference. LED is showing it crisp. You're able to make out features. You wouldn't be able to really make out the color of the vehicle on this. And then when we talk about sight lines, so for business, what's the problem with this?
See you.
Can't see anything. How comfortable is a criminal that may want to commit an armed robbery gonna feel in there? Pretty comfortable. Nobody can see in. Even the police responding to it cannot see in. How comfortable would a criminal be trying to commit an act in this open, beautiful, spacious, see in, see out area? They're gonna skip that one. That's not what they want. So we want to provide clear sight lines for businesses by ensuring windows are not obstructed by excessive signage, tinting, or frosting. And this is what we mean by the 6 feet, 2 feet rule. So you see the shrubs are all, they're down to 2 feet. The tree lines up, at least 6 feet. You have that clear sight line, there's no ambush spots, and you can see the activity. This is actually one of the places that we did do a septic assessment at. Very good sight lines. You can see all the activity that's happening outside and people can see it. Now for businesses and people that own stores, one of the biggest problems is shelving. Can everybody see how tall those shelves are? And what's that allowing for? Fact. You can walk in there, no one's going to see you. I mean, I'm 5'9", and I wouldn't even come close to being at the top of those shelves. So if you only have 1 or 2 people working, yes, they have a mirror. That's good. Having the mirror is good if you're watching it all the time. What we want in stores is the shelves down to 5 feet. That way you can see everybody. It doesn't mean that that's going to stop, but it means a potential offender or criminal in there knows that you can see them. It's taking away that I can hide and get away with it. Funny story. This is my significant other's house. My touch-up brain never turns off. I was at his place. He wanted to go up front and have a morning coffee. I sat down and lost my mind. I'm not kidding. At 9 o'clock in the morning, he had his head covers. I said, I cannot deal with this. The problem I have, what's here? There's a window there. What's at the bottom? Oh, there's a window at the bottom that opens up. Just strange to me. I'm not used to that, but so what can somebody do? They can go park their butt behind that bush and work away at trying that window open for as long as they want. So at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, this is what happened. You can still see the debris there, but you can now see the top of that window I was talking about. And now I can see out. I don't feel like I'm in a jungle somewhere. Yes, this is what he has to put up with. This is the property that I did a septic assessment at. In this corner. What's the problem with all that tree and coverage there? Right here is the back door. Good ambush spot. If somebody were to come home, they're gonna be intercepting somebody that's trying to break in. Person could be hiding there, but did they get attacked? That didn't happen. But also there, at that same property, this is the front window. There's the highway. This is an extremely remote location. It is owned by an elderly gentleman who was repeatedly broken into. You cannot see the road from the front. And the neighbor that was gracious enough to try to look after him, which we had to deal with in a different manner, had a milk crate there, and she would sit there in the dark waiting for the vendors to come back. Please don't do that. Don't ever do that. So we want all of this trimmed. You don't have to get rid of the trees. You don't have to go chopping down trees. But you do need to make it so you can see the activity in front of your house. And this is another site assessment I did. So this is the front of the seasonal property from the highway. How are the sight lines? Pretty good. Is there any problem with it that you could pick out? What's wrong with the tree?
It's big and bushy, beautiful, that's why it's there. I mean, that's why people put them there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The front door is right behind the tree. What can they do besides chopping down that tree to make the visibility better? Permit, very simple. Don't worry about all of that and open it. And right behind here, there's the back door. What's right here in behind one of those bushes? Basement window. Perfect opportunity to crouch down and break into that house. So at this property, their sea cans kept getting broken into. This is from the back of the house, looking at the sea cans. Is there any problem with the sight lines to the sea cans? Not really. The problem is in the dark, which is when it always happened, is when they're being broken into. There's no lighting. They're always coming in through this way and heading towards the front of the sea cans. Sight lines are good, but there's definitely additions that can be made, which will follow through the rest of the slides. And this is their property. It was beautiful. They cleared it. It was gorgeous. You can see from one end of the property to the next. So that's kind of ideal. And when we're talking about mechanical surveillance for cameras, what we want to do is have a camera where the roof and the ceiling meet. We want to protect cameras from other tampering and vandalism. We want to mount the cameras so there's no shaking or vibrations, giving it a fuzzy picture quality. And we want to place cameras that are not heavily trafficked or shrub heavy locations. And the don'ts of natural surveillance, don't install a camera in an area that won't be well lit at night. If you have a camera and you don't have the light, it's going to just show a black dot. Don't attach a camera to a bed. Why would we do that? It's not stable. And don't limit your cameras just to your front door. And don't place a camera right above the basement window. It will get smashed. And also don't assume wireless means completely wireless. A lot of people have purchased camera systems and found out that even though it says it's completely wireless, they still need a power source for it. And just further do's and don'ts, be strategic where you place the cameras. What do you want to see? What do you want to capture? if you're on a rural property, you have a great big long driveway to your main house, and you're parking your trucks or your vehicles out in that driveway, what do we want to be capturing in the cameras? Want to be capturing the entry to the driveway, and we want to make sure that cameras are placed on those vehicles, as well as some form of lighting. Any natural choke points, you want to have a camera there, and always place the valuable objects in camera view. And for businesses, it's always good to have them with your road shipments. So they have a camera right there that's pointing out onto their driveway. We would also be recommending cameras are put up high enough so they can't be smashed with a bat or a stick, and pointing down towards the front door. Now, caution, there is something to be said about placing cameras. There could be an issue if you put a camera up too high and it's focusing on your neighbor's yard. Try not to do that. Actually, you shouldn't be doing that at all. And for businesses, cameras should get the entrances, exits, loading zones, employee customer parking, and any other isolated locations on the property. And what we ask is, if you have video surveillance, can you please make sure that it's retained for 30 days? And the reason why we ask that is sometimes the officers aren't able to get there within a day or two to get that video surveillance to further the investigation. If we have 30 days, that's more than ample time for them to collect evidence. And we have access control. Access control is pretty self-explanatory. Who are we letting into our property and how? So for access control, mechanical security is a priority and does have to be high quality. I see it time and time again where we're using master locks, the little tiny padlocks on C-frames or outside sheds. I can break into one of those. It takes me a bit, but if I know we can get through that, if you're experienced and seasoned, in under a minute with wood covers or an angle grind. For homes and apartments and condos, we're recommending when you're putting in your deadbolts or any of the locking mechanism that we're using a minimum of 3-inch screws and wood screws, not decorative drywall screws. And for common rooms or potential areas of entrapment, 2-sided key locks or disabling deadbolt. And is anybody familiar with door guards? So door guards usually run from the top or from the bottom to the top of a door. They can be found for seat cans, sheds, homes, businesses. And they should be a 1/4 of an inch thick and interlocking. And I'll show you what we mean by that. So this was from a site that I did. It was actually at a campground, and surprise, this building kept getting broken into. Why was that building getting broken into repeatedly?
Easy lock.
Easy lock. And what about this? And then what about the wooden structure? They were just kicking it in. There was nothing for them. For businesses and apartments, even these can be tricky. It's not clear on this picture, but you can actually see where somebody was able to get underneath and pry. And you have the pry marks on the door right there. So we want it to be heavy duty. You're not going to be able to get anything in between the door and the locking mechanism to pry it open. So once again, when you're doing recommendations or implementing different securities, you want to make sure that you're doing it effectively, because the effort may be there, but if the means is still available for them to bypass it and breach, then it's not effective. And these are examples of door locks, so it runs all the way up. That's a door guard. Very difficult to pry into those. It is interlocking on both of these, but the hinge is protected as well. And also for access control, we're looking at bollards and cement planters. So why do we have these in front of the front glass entryway?
Yes.
Does anybody remember the year ago, that was a big thing? So when pickup trucks were being driven through storefronts. They're gonna have a hard time driving through those for reviews. And just on that note, what were they going in for? ATMs. So where is this ATM located? Right beside the glass entryway. If you have a business, and you have an ATM, you want to make sure that it is far away from the front door, that you can watch the activity on it, and that you have a means of stopping a vehicle from driving through the front of your building. Common problem. This is space between two apartment complexes. What activity happens in between those? Typically, a lot of times people are in between those buildings. Unfortunately, they're consuming a lot of alcohol and possible drug use. So that looks a little bit run down. A lot of unnecessary foot traffic will be coming through there. And in order to fix it, having an open wrought iron fence like that not only allows the activity to stop, but police officers driving by can still maintain visual when they're patrolling. And this is an example of an apartment complex, just your regular parking lot. Anybody can come and go as they please. If you look over on this, you have access control because you have that fence up. And it's showing them that only designated people can be on that property. And territorial reinforcement goes hand in hand with access control. It's providing a sense of ownership by defining clear property lines. So an example of that, this is a rundown pathway. Anybody can access it by vehicle or on foot. It's not well designated who the intended users are. And it's not exactly designated where that property line is. As opposed to, this is a lot more welcoming. Even though the trees are tall, they're spaced out, they're thin. You have that sense of, I can see out, people can see in, and it's welcoming. And again, just another clear picture of how you can do that territorial reinforcement. Just stating this is my property. I'll let you in if I want to let you in. If not, please stay out. And for this, we have the wrought iron fence, we have the nice shrubs, and the clearly defined walkway. And that's showing the territoriality for that premise. And signage. How many people actually have signage around their place? What do you have?
It says, security is 71 company that is on the system.
And do you have that on just one place, or do you have it?
Just on.
Okay. Signage is extremely important. It can be a great deterrent to criminals. Properties without the signage on it, chances are pretty good they are just going to say, you know what, I don't think they have video surveillance. I don't think they have an alarm system. Having a sign that says bird dog or dog on property. Having signage, putting it on the front and putting it on the back are great, because if someone's going to try into your property from the back, they're not going to see that sign that's on the front. And maintenance is our fourth principle, which is a sense of guardianship and a strong return to criminal activity. Has anybody heard broken windows theory? What's the broken windows theory?
If you have one broken window in the neighborhood, then you're more likely to have more broken windows. That's exceptional behavior.
Yeah, so when something's looking run down, it is going to attract criminal activity. This is one of the sites that we did a septet assessment on. This is the back of the business. Granted, I guess debris is well maintained and it's stacked up nicely. But what could these pallets be used for? or the shopping cart. What's right there?
Break windows, all stuff.
So when you leave stuff out, they can actually become a break and enter tool. I've been guilty of it. You're working in the yard, you have your shovel out, you have a rake out, you have your ladder up the side of the door or side to side of the house. Not only is that saying, here's a break and enter tool for you to break into my house, it can also be used as a weapon against you. So putting the ladder away, putting everything away that we possibly can. When I presented in Manitoba, somebody brought up a good point, the wood pallets could be used unfortunately for arson. Let's take away opportunities. Let's not give them opportunities. Stacking items up against the side of your business can actually be used as a means for them to get onto the roof. Yes, they actually do break into businesses through the roof. It's a thing. Let's take away that opportunity. And that's just another picture of that same business. They've got, this is their inventory, a delivery for food, I think. So I don't know if that just stood out as weird to me, but that's also attracting people that may want to come and take a case of whatever was there. So if you came across this park area on your block, would you go in there? Would you feel safe in there? What do you think's happening in there criminality wise? Nothing good. Rundown buildings, common in the rural areas too. What can those be used for? Exactly. Unless you're a teenager and you're going on to drink and have a good party. Is that causing a disruption in the community? Yes. Is that potentially leading to somebody driving impaired on the road afterwards? Yes. Nothing good can come out of this. We do have eyesore bylaws that are in some municipalities. I do have one in the community that I live in, and we actually did have a quarter that had stuff piled up all over their property. That is actually a bylaw, and they were told we have a certain time now to get rid of it because it is causing disruption to the community and it's an unsafe environment. And this is an example of a well-maintained property. We have our clear pathways. It's showing where you go, where you're allowed to go. We have our bollards, so no vehicles can go in there. The trees are well maintained. There's good enough natural lighting coming through. So that's giving the sense of safety. So for maintenance, have a maintenance plan in place. If you have video surveillance, make sure the cameras are working once a month. Make sure batteries have been replaced. Walk around your house, see if there are light bulbs that are burnt out. Replace those. At night, you can even develop a nighttime routine, which we have put out on social media before. Or you go to bed, just do a quick walk around your property, make sure everything's locked up, put away, all the lights are on, and everything's good to go. For businesses, remove graffiti as soon as noticed, like we said. One broken window leads to another. Graffiti leads to more graffiti. Keep recycling garbage bins in a locked and secured location. We prefer that they all be kind of fenced in. There is illegal activity that happens in the garbage bin sites outside of businesses. And maintain a regular schedule for cleaning the lights. I have been guilty of this. My lights have been filthy outside. And I actually had to take, well, I got my son to do it, so. And this is an example, pre-septed, post-septed. So what are the big differences here? So the trees and the bushes are gone. We have lighting. We have a fresh coat of paint. What perception do we have of this picture of it? It's not as safe or as fortified as we would like it to be. This property, they can see what's happening out. People can see what's happening there. You have a light. It's creating a safer environment and more welcoming. And again, before and after, we have this perfect fence. This part of it fell down. It's an obstruction. And this one is the same location, but we have beautiful shrubbery in there right now. We have additional lighting in, a clear walkway. Again, a safer perception. And how to use septic principles in your home or business. Always look at your physical environment. Consider the behavior of people, make productive use of your space, and work towards crime loss prevention. And we have the 4 Ds, last but not least, deter. So we can deter criminal activity by access control, territoriality, exterior maintenance, and defining our space with lighting. Detect activity with access control, intrusion detection, CCTV surveillance, and delay. Don't make it easy for offenders to get onto your property. I have done so many site assessments now throughout all of Alberta. Holes in the fence, holes in the fence. They got through the same holes that they cut last time. If you have a hole in the fence, it needs to be repaired. Always use defense in layers, and again, quality locks and gate mechanisms. And deny. Response to the alarm, patrol or static guard, and multiple layers of protection around your stuff. And that is it for the presentation. I'll just leave these final questions that you didn't want to ask yourself about your property. And then if anybody else has any questions or comments, they would like to ask me. No questions?
Well, in the environmental thing, the one thing that's really surprised me is sometimes, a lot of times with the public buildings and stuff, I can understand xenoscaping, so you don't have to cut the grass, and I understand mulch and gravel, but rocks that are fist sized or bigger around a public building with all kinds of windows, it's just asking for trouble.
And you know what? As a person that just got exposed to this and it is validated, there's nothing wrong with you suggesting that to the property owner in a very nice way. Saying, hey, have you ever considered, I heard this, the idea of this presentation, and this may be just something I'm concerned. So absolutely, there's never anything wrong with just vocalizing.
And as a side note, sir, I found out that the RCMP has policy on the size of the rock that we can have around our building.
Oh, really?
We have policy about this, believe it or not. I am in contravention apparently of that policy, but anyway, yeah, we cannot have so to your point.
I didn't even know that.
Me neither. So
Not cheating because I'm gonna go 100.
But you're talking about opportunity, right?
yes, oh yeah.
It's a rock, there's a window. I mean, it's.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? All right.
Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. This presentation was extremely informative. I personally could not believe the difference between the regular light and the LED lights.
Yes.
When you see them side by side, it is quite impressive. Thank you very much. I'm personally taking a lot from this, and I'm sure everybody else did. So if there's no questions in regard to the presentation, I will move on with some of the local stats, and then we can talk about what's going on in our community. And okay,
Actually, do you want me to use it?
I will go ahead. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
How many people here are actually in the business? Okay, you, okay.
Can I just make a comment? You were talking earlier about having your ladders and stuff. And just an observation is for anybody or any business that has a second story to it, getting up to that second story window, more quickly than not, that window is not locked.
That, and same within houses, and a lot of people have that false security that because it's the second floor and in the summer, they can leave their windows open on the second floor, the breeze blowing in. That's a false security. So take away the means for somebody to gain access to that second story.
But we
window.
can- yeah.
Yeah,
So what we have is the pamphlets that very summarize, I would say, the presentation, and it's 2 pages, so. But sure. And if you have any questions or you want to find out more, please let me know. I certainly know where Jennifer works.
yeah,
We can try.
yes.
So I will like want her out to believe you would like more information and whatnot, so we can sort of do this.
And just look quickly, these are the patterns of on your vehicle on your side of your window. And it's just a little let possibly people are wanting to into your vehicle, you have nothing in. So perfect.
So as she's distributing this, we can certainly start with our own systems. So if I'm talking actually here, right now, when we look at our staffing, we are investing in a good position compared to other attachment on the policy. You can speak your small hires, louder, no problem. So, we'll talk about the local detachment a little bit, our staffing situation. And basically, we are in a good position, compared with some of my coworkers that are already in the detachment and they're struggling with some of the staffing issues. And so currently, we are fully staffed on 4 people. 2 are on long-term sick leave, and we have 2 that basically 1 transferred out and 1 promoted up. So we have 2 proposed positions that are vacant. So out of the 23 positions that I have, I'm missing 4. So pretty good for an attachment our size. We also tried a pilot project. We started in May with what we call a crime reduction position. Basically, it's a member that is just doing proactive work, not answering the radio. I like to call it quick victories, basically chasing down the bad guys, executing certain arrest warrants, enforcing traffic, basically, and believe it or not, applying some of those principles, you know, looking at what's not supposed to be in this line of sight, looking at who is not respecting some boundaries for property and whatnot, and then making arrests or addressing the problem at the time. We got good results out of it, so we decided to make that position a little bit more permanent. So we have that's added a member from our general duty members to that position. And so we're going to try to maintain it full time from now on. Now I'm saying this as long as they will have more members going into this, because we're our first priority is compulsive service. Those are like honestly an extra on top, but they are beneficial in helping reduce crime in the community. So that's for staffing. In terms of our goals that we set on the annual performance plan, so I don't know if some people remember at the beginning of the year, February, we approached the community basically asking what would be their priority. And we set some for the year. So this is not the only thing that we're doing, obviously, but these are some of the goals that we set for ourselves. So in terms of the community relationship, last year we had a goal of 25 contact activities, interactions. This year we bumped it up to 30. The stat that I have here, it's for our first month of our fiscal year, so it's from April to end of September. We're over 34 contacts already. I'll have to say my members are highly involved in attending as much as they can to any activities that are happening, any events and whatnot. I try as well. So we're well above the goal that we've set for ourselves. Now, if we look at crime reduction, specific things that we were looking for at Edson was trying to reduce thefts by 10%. So in 2021, we have 380 thefts in Edson. And so our goal was to reduce it by 10%. So to be around 342 by the end of the year. So for the first 6 months, we're about 140. So we're below our targets. So we're doing good. Proactive visibility patrols. So this one includes the county. Basically, the last year we had 1,000 patrols. So this year we bumped it up a little bit because we do that around the water. This is how 1,200 patrols. So what we're talking about patrol is just dedicated proactive patrols by the member, driving around, attending location, keeping our eye open, looking for what's going on. And already it's after 6 months, we're over 1,000. So we're again way above the goal that we set for ourselves. And the last goal that we had was for our general investigation section to complete 6 self-generated drug investigation in town. That's not the only focus that I have, but have that as well. Due for some staffing reasons, at one point they weren't able to do this, but so far we have one. We have been in 6 months, so something that we're going to look and try to complete for the end of the year. So these are the goals that we've set for ourselves. And now if we look at our stats in general, so these stats are from January to October 2022. It's only for the town of Edson. It does not include the statistics that would be for the rural area. Again, overall, the statistics compared to last year, we saw a slight increase in the overall criminal files that we're getting, 3% increase. So I'll go section by section, but before we go there, the main reason is the last 2 years we had COVID, so the economy was a lot slower. The activity in town was a lot not as busy, and therefore there was less opportunity for crime. So we saw great results through those 2 years. But despite this, if I look at some of the numbers, we are way below the stats that we were seeing in 2018 and 2019. So even though we're out of that COVID wave, we're still seeing numbers that are less than what we saw pre-COVID. So we're doing very good. So overall, if we look at the person's crime, so we're talking assaults, sexual assaults, criminal harassment, things like this. Overall, that category is down by 5% if we compare some same time period with last year. So things to stands out in that area would be sexual assaults. So we're noticing an increase of 60%. So last year, for the same time period, we had 15 that were reported to us. This year, 24. So I did look into those files and see what was going on. First of all, I want to say we don't have a rapist running around town. That's not the situation here. 50% of those files are family related, and the other 50, it's people that know each other. So I'll use the word friends very loosely here, but through friends or acquaintances and whatnot. So now questioning myself, why do we have a number higher than the year before? I don't really have 100% of an answer to this, but the one thing that comes to mind is that we've been working really hard as a society to remove the stigma around sexual assault, and victims feel more comfortable to approach authorities, services, and to disclose that they were victimized. And I think that's what we're seeing. I don't think that we're seeing an increase. I think we're seeing an increase of people that are willing now to disclose this. Because some of those are historic. They did not just happen during the year. There are some that were, that happened in the past that were disclosed to us this year. But so, in my opinion, if this is really what's happening, I think we're going to move back. I know as a police service, we had to educate ourselves on better investigate those, better respond better, and understanding the victims better. And I think it's starting to show some results. In terms of other people crime, like the majority were involved in, like for example, like assaults. Last year, at the same time period, we had 120, we're at 103, so a lot less. If I move to property crime, overall property crime, we're seeing an increase of 13%. That's pretty good. The reason why I'm saying this is property crime versus people crime, a lot more difficult to solve because like Jennifer mentioned, when do we get crimes? When do we get property that gets vandalized and break and enter? It happens when it's dark at night, when you don't want to see versus a person crime while the victim sees, recognizes the aggressor. So it's easier for us to investigate. So if I look at some of the numbers, when we look at property crimes, our break-in enters are down by 10%, theft of vehicles are down by 7%. The one number that stands out for us would be possession of stolen property, 63%. So last year we had 16, this year 26. Again, I looked into those. So what's happening is when the vehicle gets stolen, and it's usually vehicle, and I'm including ATVs into this, is eventually they get dumped somewhere. And so some are just being dumped in town and we're recovering the vehicle. So the reason, so we don't have a scoring for just recovering a vehicle. It's basically a stolen vehicle that we found somewhere. Someone had to be in possession of it at one point. That's what generates the stuff. So sometimes it's a little bit like we can kind of get a little bit of a double whammy. If the, like, let's say the truck was stolen from Edson and then recovered at Edson later, then we get possession of stolen property. But that's how the stats are built. But that's usually what we're seeing here. It's not that all of a sudden we caught multiple people with stolen properties. Beside that, in terms of property crimes, mischiefs are down by 7%, 17%. So overall 13 is pretty good. And Leo stay like this. We're done the summertime. Usually that's when we have the peak for those crimes. I'm not saying during the winter it doesn't happen. Although winter now it's the vehicles running when it's cold. That is a bit of a challenge for us. But breaking enters and things and stuff like that, usually we don't see as much in the winter. And the last categories is what we call other criminal code. So overall, so I'll give you the numbers and we'll talk about it. Obviously, this is the area that is actually bumping our overall stats up a little bit. And one category that stands out is fail to comply in breaches. We have a 308% increase. So last year we had 38 and this year we're at 155. So let me clarify this. So basically what happened is during COVID, during restrictions, the courthouse was either closed, canceled, moved to Hinton, back to here. So to be fair to the people that had to report, we were advised to not lay any charge of failure to attend. So now that those restrictions are lifted and the court is back to regular business, well, people that are not going to court, and unfortunately there's a we're now being charged, and that's what's driving. And that's why previously we only had 38 or 55. It's pretty much every week I have in the neighborhood between 5 to 10 people that did not attend court. That generates a stat, fail to attend. So that's why the number is up. So overall, that number at 308% is affecting overall crime stats. And it's not meaning that we have a more difficult community. So overall, these are the critical stats. If I look at the other categories, so in terms of drug enforcement, we saw an increase of 64%. So we went from 11 to 18 calls for service in that area. So this is a bit of a result from our proactive patrols. We'll catch the odd time someone with some drugs with them and whatnot. It does not necessarily lead to a charge against that person, but at least it's something that sometimes it's traces or a very small amount that we seize. But it's a sign that we are engaged in that world and that we are catching some people with some drugs. Then if we look at provincial statistics, we've seen an increase of 7%. The big driver in this would be other provincial stats. So anytime that an incident is happening in the community that would be in contradiction with one of the provincial stats, other than traffic, that's what we generate a statistic. It could be trespassing, it could be things like this, like provincial offenses. So we've seen an increase of 7%. Under that category, we have the mental health act. So basically, these are all the calls for service for welfare check, people in distress, people needing to that are recognizing that they have that they need help. That right now times are difficult, or they need to talk to someone. And so this year, so far, we've seen a decrease of 1%. And 99 last year, 98 this year. So we'll call it the same. But the good thing is it's not on the rise so far anyway. So that's good. Traffic statistics are down by 12%. So those would be your tickets. Collisions overall, an increase of 35%. Sorry, 34. So no fatal collisions. Injury collisions, we saw a decrease of 44%, so that's good. 16 to 9. And then we have all the other ones we call property damage, so under vendors collisions. We saw a slight increase in those. Basically, what we call property damage reportable, which is the damage is more than $2,000. We saw an increase of 39%, and the non-reportable, which is less than $1,000, but they less than $2,000, but they still contact the police, let us know. We saw an increase of 125. So we're talking for the reportable ones, 92,228 collisions, and the non-reportable 828. So in line with the increased activities, traffic that we see in town, hotels are full every night. So more vehicles moving on the road, you'll see an increase in your collision, unfortunately. Yeah, that's about it. And then if we look at so like Jennifer mentioned earlier, when there's something suspicious, please contact the police. So that's usually captured by our calls for service, more suspicious person, vehicle, and property. We are basically at the same amount as last year, 0% increase. 262 calls of that nature, same for 2022. That's the number I'd like to see always growing. That means that people are calling us more and more and more. There's no call too small for us. Of course, we cannot make a promise that we can check every single where there is suspicious vehicles, but for sure, for the area, we will. If all of a sudden we get the same call about the same black truck in the same area, we're focusing a lot more in that area on a lot more on black trucks. So we absolutely need people calling in. We saw a slight increase with the people reporting missing. We had 7 last year, 12 this year. And we saw a slight increase in our spousal abuse. So basically domestic family fights between couples, about 28%. So these are the statistics for the town of Edson. Any questions on those? Yes.
Can I mention something about that?
Absolutely.
Okay, I mean, two things to say.
Yeah.
The school zones from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, I think it's 30 kilometers an hour.
Yes.
Okay. That's one of the new settings that came from right away around town. It seems like about 90% of the people I see are not observing it. And it's becoming a real problem.
Okay.
Like, I mean, a real problem, because people just think it's a freeway.
Yeah.
You know, if I have to follow it, anybody else has to follow it. I'm no different than anybody else. But I see that pretty well the same people all the time doing it. I don't have license numbers or anything, but I see the same people very much. Yeah. So that I know it's good to have it loaded like that. I think it's a great idea. I really think it's fantastic that it's lowered during those hours. No doubt. It's better for the school kids, but there are just some people that think Tim Hortons is full at 8 o'clock at night or something. Because like, I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
No regard to the songs. And there's lots of they can get to, there's probably no other more.
Probably.
Number two. I know you guys don't want to. From Fourth Avenue and 51st Street from the north. That has become the second speedway raceway of the capital of Canada.
So 51st, okay,
My friend here was observing one guy passing another guy. Very high rate of speed, and that's not a passing area. And I would say about 90% of people that drive that road are got it before.
okay,
And it's very, I think it's got a lot of your plate, but it's getting very disheartening, very distressing, and you have to risk your life to get across the road.
yeah,
Because you're halfway out there, there's a guy a block away, and you start getting out there, he's putting.
yeah, it's within residential.
That's going to be one of the worst streets in this town.
Okay.
And there's going to be, like, I see people text on it. You know, I see people drinking beer on it, you know, and by the time I phone 911. Exactly, because before you even know what's going on, you gotta give your name, your birthday, your shoe size, everything, and it's like, what's happening to one?
Yeah, no, sure, okay, well, thank you very much.
We're very sorry, that's being street. Before it's made, it's disgusting to me that people are just, you know, it's a free for all.
Okay, thank you very much, and, so I will add it to the list of streets that, we pay more attention to. 63rd Street is one of them, 40th Street as well as one of them. I remember those, the last two town halls, someone was always mentioning, I remember the traffic circle, the speeders, and sitting my members there, couldn't find anybody, but I came up with COP and we didn't read our guns. It is happening. People are really going fast. So like, hey, good. So now from time to time, I go there and enforce traffic. So I will definitely include 51 streets on our list of streets that we will put some focus on. And hopefully we will be able to change their behavior. I hate to say it, every time we're there, everybody's perfect. As soon as we drive away, speed up, but doesn't mean that we cannot try. So thank you very much for doing
Is
this.
that actually photo radar one?
Not 51st, no.
Are there any that can speak and take their cameras?
Not on 51st Street, no.
So, but is there anywhere in town that they are, I don't want.
Oh, it's okay. 51st Street is in town, yeah. So I mean, 4th Avenue, 2nd Avenue is our main focus. We have a zone on 13th Avenue. We have, of course, all the school zones that are being monitored. Absolutely. Now, right now, we are in the process of looking at other location that probably deserves some attention. And so your timing is actually pretty good. We're talking about it now. So your timing is really good. I will definitely mention this. Because we were looking at probably having that 163rd Street and 40th Avenue. No, absolutely. And I would like to ask you, when you're talking like people not following the speed limits, a new 30-mile zone, is there a time period that is happening more often than others at the time? Okay. Thank you.
People in school don't do it. Yeah, and they see a lot of school.
Yeah, well, not question yet.
They're posted, they don't, like, it's just like,
Yeah, oh, yeah, no. And I've noticed in my personal vehicle, like the daytime, people are more used to it, so it's 50-50. But yes, later at night, until 9 o'clock, you can tell that people are not used to it yet. And I don't know, maybe they're maybe on the fact that they have something else to do, so they speed up, but no, it's something that we have to pay attention to, so.
stick that, we were the.
Yeah.
6th Avenue, 4th East.
Okay,
That's,
okay.
it's like, great. That's school going there. And people tailgate, I've been tailgated so many times. People honk in the morning and they go fast and we do the speed limit.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that.
And sometimes people, they get a one ticket in the mail. Sometimes money doesn't mean anything to anybody, they'll just keep paying it.
Yes, I've heard that too. Yeah, no.
We also,
I see, thank you, is it helps paying for my members, so, I see, thank you to those people that, well, they're this dangerous, so. Yes, it does help. Anyway. Anything else?
Yeah, look, I care about it. And, I don't think anybody should have to be affected of something else.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Okay, no, I'm trying to keep this, so, and as we're mentioning, the controls that I'm talking about, that are like over 1,000 now. So I give the mandate to my members to enforce traffic during those patrols. I am not, there's no quotas, so they don't have to bring back 10 tickets or, right? What I like is like, how about we have 3 tickets / warning for members per month? So some rate their 3 tickets, some will give 3 warnings. So we are out there patrolling and enforcing traffic, but having more detailed or specific locations that will help us, and then we can go there and focus on those.
I was gonna mention, so after the last time we did the monitoring on 40th Street.
Yeah.
And at the times we monitored it, we saw 29% of the vehicles in that zone were going at least 10 kilometers over the speed limit. Top speed we got on 40th Street was 96 kilometers an hour.
That's
And 15, and 15.
yeah, it's blows my mind, but here it's out. Yeah.
We were just discussing that we're gonna get the radar gun out and go to these areas.
Yeah.
Because our stats, when we do this, radar gun is from you. So we will go out there and just, sometimes my vehicle looks like an RCMP vehicle. So quite often people turn into perfect drivers when they come close, and they realize it's not. And so they resume. So we will take those areas and put some people on.
Thank you.
No, thank you for bringing that up.
Anything else? Any other questions? Comments? Okay, good. I don't have anything else. The main focus tonight was the presentation, which was really good. I will be certainly in touch with the community around February again, because it's our consultation, where your suggestion will put on priorities for the upcoming year. So to either near you, we'll have another zone, or at least a survey or something, because we have to consult. So we will see you again, and if there's no other questions.
Is there, are we trying to do this twice a year?
So, yeah, town halls like this, yes, so I have to do 2 a year, so that's absolutely. This is my, for Edson, my second one in Timber, yes, yes, so because I had one prior to, but yes, absolutely. And I will be, if you're interested, it'll be the same presentation, but next week we're going to be in county, the Pine Grove Hall, and I'll have different statistics and be one of the rural areas. The presentation will be the same, but we'll be having the same town hall, same idea, talking about what's going on there and looking at their prices. But yes, no, twice a year, I don't think it's too much. It's pretty reasonable. We need to know what's going on, and I need to hear feedback. So thank you very much. Yes, was there any questions online that I missed that I was looking for? Yeah. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Pleasure. And you're